Hey guys, MudMowers. Today we're going to be comparing engines. Enjoy. Got is pretty much every Briggs and Stratton engine. Not like every model and type, but you've got single cylinders, you got your V twins and opposed twins. And yes, these are all vertical shaft engines, not horizontal shafts, but a horizontal shaft is pretty much the same concept. You know, maybe the oil filter is a little bit different, the carburetor is going to have to be tilted 90 a little 12.5 volts flathead Briggs. Pretty simple, weighs about 45 pounds. Its cubic inch displacement is about 19 to 28. That's what they come in, I'm pretty sure. Yes, they do have like 11s probably and smaller stuff, but this is more of a long and going tractor you'd find. Some pros about it is they're pretty dang durable. They're really good on horsepower and torque. They have, for their weight, they're pretty good on horsepower and torque. Can't really go wrong. They're super simple, and like I said, the air cleaners are really effective, just like the overhead valve here is too. Super simple. Not much spots for leaks here. Some cons to it: they're flatheads, so not gonna get its bestest performance. There's no pressure lubrication on this model. You can't. These little carburetors get gummed up super fast, but they're about 15 bucks brand new on eBay, just a little China thing. And the last con on these things is their dipstick. This thing here is always leaking because of how dumb they made this little thing here. It just eventually starts moving like that, and it pulls up and it starts leaking. And I've seen some of these actually start leaking so much it's caught the engine on fire. So let's move on to the next engine. So next up we've got a 15 horse Briggs overhead valve single cylinder. Pretty similar design to the flathead, just with overhead valve. So these are about 65 pounds, just an estimate. The cubic inch displacement is about 28 to 31, as I've seen these come in. And they do feature the Walbo and Nicky carburetors, just like the single cylinder does, so you can interswap these parts if you need. Note that little elbow is a lot shorter than that elbow, because that head has to stick out a little bit more, and that's where the feel goes back in. So some pros about these engines: they're super light, you can get a lot of good parts, you can make good power with them. They're pretty small, lightweight, like I said. These are super fuel efficient. Other than that thing, it's got overhead valve. And some of these models actually have pressure lubrication. Most of the newer ones do, though, not these older red covered. Cons about these engines is their Nicky carburetors are pretty bad. I've always had problems with them. Just easier to buy a brand new carburetor. Their valves can be super loud, even though you adjust them to the right specs, which is 5 thousandths and 7 thousandths intake and exhaust. And then they can blow up because Briggs makes these in 31 cubic inch, and they're pushing like 21 horsepower out of this tiny little block, and you just blow these things right up with that much horsepower without even modifying it. And they have a synchronizer or counterbalance down in there in the crankcase, which keeps it from having too much vibration. And I'm pretty sure that has a counterbalance. Yeah, it says it right there. So those things like to go for the block too if you're spinning them a little bit too fast. So that's about it for the little flathead. But that's about it for the overhead valve. Next up we've got the Briggs V twins. This one is a 21 horsepower. It's a V twin. These are not heavy, 85 pounds, but it's not light either. It's not too bad though for what it is. So these come in 40 and 44 cubic inch models. This one here is a 40 cubic inch. I think about 22 horse and about 25. It's the 44 cubic inches. So, some pros about these things, if they're pretty lightweight, they got a lot of torque and horsepower, an overhead valve, and you can get pretty good performance parts for them, and they're pressure lubed, and most are full pressure lubrication. The singles are usually just a little bit of pressure lubrication, maybe not the whole rod. For carburetors on these things, you've got the double barrel Nicky carburetor. I usually don't like those. And then you've got a Walbro single barrel. Note that this is actually just a little Kohler Command carburetor. I didn't have the single barrel carburetor for this. But yeah, it is double barrel, but they seem to have more problems than the single barrels. So try to stay away from these things. And the plastic intake. The single barrels are metal intake, aluminum intake. These can warp and get leaks right where they make the block. Some cons, like I said, I can't really stand the double barrel carburetors. It's a cool design and concept, but it just doesn't really work as good. And the air filter design is just kind of poor. You've got these little latches, and you just got those screws, and that's how that holds that thing in there from sealing. It's kind of expensive to place one of those too. Not last but not least, we've got the Briggs opposed twin. So these things are about, I'd say 100 pounds, just a little bit more than the V-twin. It's not too noticeable, but it's a little bit weight added on. So you can get these in a 40 cubic inch, 42, and 46. So yeah, you're pushing 2 more cubic inches than the V-twin. If you're really looking for power, that might make a difference. So these carburetors, you've got the 3rd gen, 4th through 3rd gen Walbro carburetors. You can tell by the 3 bolts on the fuel pump here. And then you've got the 4th gen Nicky carburetors, which have a 4-bolt carburetor pump. And the Walbros, the really old style, you can adjust these jets down here. This is a newer Walbro, but you can't even adjust it. So, but it's still a really good carburetor. You can buy kits for them, and these give you very little trouble. So some pros about these engines, they're pretty torquey. You got piston firing, and then it pushes the next piston and it fires down. It's just pretty good design. It's like a little Volkswagen engine. And there's no counterbalance, so it makes it super stable with an engine. Onans are also opposed twins, and those things run super balanced. And then you can modify these things pretty easily, like get rid of the governor, just hook a direct throttle up to it. Super easy mods to work on. And they're great for tractor pulling. A little bit heavy, but that might get you into better classes. And you can get more torque out of these things. The V-twins just will bog down. They don't get as much torque as this thing does, even though this doesn't have as much horsepower as the V-twin does. And some of these will have pressure lubrication with an oil filter, I believe right here. I've never got one of those, but I have like 10 of these things, and I've never got one with the pressure lubrication. So in that case, it's probably pretty rare to come across. Some cons about them. So flathead. I have seen people try to take an overhead valve off this kind of engine and try to bolt it on them. Maybe you have to mill it down, mill the holes differently. I bet it's possible. Might have to try it one day. Like I said, the 4-bolt Nicky carburetors are just junk, hard to work on. They're always coming up with fuel. And the starters are always grinding the teeth out because you've got this little shaft here, and spinning such a big engine, got a little bushing down here, just like any of these other V-twins or singles, but the shaft always wears out, and then that makes the starter want to move away from the flywheel. It grinds the teeth right off, and you gotta take this cover off, and you gotta get 2 bolts behind here. It takes a good 20 minutes to replace the starter gear and put it back in there, but as long as you got a good bushing in here, what I'd recommend doing is drilling a little hole right here, and just spraying some oil in there. It should go right on the bushing and hopefully make it last a little bit longer. And They use a lot of gas because it's 2-cylinder with no overhead valve. So that's pretty much it for the little engine comparison and which engine you would want and why. My opinion, I'd only be wanting a post twin or a V-twin. I won't really want these things. I have a lot of them, but they're just little single cylinders. This will have definitely, you'll feel the double the amount of power with 2 cylinders with it. So if you can get your hands on a V-twin or on a post twin, go for it. If you're mudding really hard, you know you want a really endurance engine that can last forever, the V-twin, or I mean the post twin's the way to go. If you're looking for something pretty lightweight for a little lightweight mud tractor, or maybe even a racer, these V-twins are pretty good for you. Pretty easy to modify. I've got one here. I'll show a picture of it. That's for the all-terrain lawn tractor form. And yes, I'm going to have a video out of that pretty soon. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video of MudMowers. Stay tuned for more.